All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I see some Barbie pink out there. Woo! All right, Jeff Harry combines positive psychology and play to heal workplaces, help teams build psychological safety, and assist individuals in addressing their biggest challenges by embracing a play-oriented approach at work. Jeff was selected by Bamboo HR and Engagedly as one of the top 100 HR influencers and has been featured in the New York Times, Mashable, Upworthy, HuffPost, Shondaland, Wired, keeps going, NPR, Nat Geo, and Forbes. Jeff has worked with Google, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, Adobe, the NFL, Amazon, and Facebook, helping their staff to infuse more play into their day-to-day. Over the past 15 years of facilitation and speaking, Jeff's main goal has been to help work suck less by assisting leaders in building a playground workplace atmosphere that motivates their staff to do their most vibrant work. Welcome to the WorkHuman Live stage, Jeff Harry.
Let's go. Thank you so much. What's up, everyone? I want you to find a partner. So everyone, go ahead, find a partner. Introduce yourself to that partner. All right, introduce them. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Yeah, get to know each other. What's your social security number? All that jazz. All right. So here's the deal. I'm a play guy, and I'm going to be talking about play today. I'm going to be talking about play and Barbie. Barbie, what's up? Yes? So, in order to talk about play, you can't talk about play without playing first. So you have clipboards, you have paper, you have pens, and now you have your partner. So you have 1 minute. Go ahead, make sure you all have a partner, all right? You have 1 minute to draw your partner, starting right now. Draw them. Draw them. Draw them. What? 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 Wait! I came here for Barbie, not to draw. Draw your partner. Draw. Oh, I love it. People are on the stage over here. I love it. No pressure, but 45 seconds. 45 seconds. By the way, you will be showing it to each other. I just want to let you know. Make sure to capture the aura, the essence, the color scheme. You're like, color scheme? I got one pen. What are we doing here? We're down to 20 seconds. Down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, show it to each other. There you go. Oh my gosh. Is that what you see me? Is that how you see me? What is that? Is that Picasso? What is that a face? Okay. I'll give you another chance. Flip the piece of paper over. You're like, oh gosh. Oh goodness. All right, turn to your partner, okay? If you need to apologize, this would be the time to apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm not a drawer, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to draw them, but you do it with your eyes closed. Starting right now, eyes closed. And I know the cheaters. I see the podcasters out there, I know y'all. 30 seconds. I love when you do it with your eyes closed. Everyone gets all quiet. Make sure to capture the aura, the essence, the color scheme again. We've started, yes. I'll give you a little extra time. You might have already forgotten where your pen is. You're like, am I drawing eyebrows? Am I drawing eyes? I mean, even on the paper. Down to 10 seconds. 8, 7, 6. I'm counting slow. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, show it to each other. Oh. Why are some of these better? What's going on? What is that? Let me see that. That one's better. That one looks better. Look at that one. That's more accurate. Okay. Go ahead, sign your name in the corner like Picasso. Go ahead, sign it and hand it to them. If you get nothing else from this talk, you get a horribly drawn photo that you can put on your fridge or in the garbage, wherever you feel it should go. There you go. Your souvenir. All right. Oh my gosh, I love doing that. I always do that. Okay. All right. So, first of all, high five your partner. Well done. That was great. That was awesome. Well done. Okay. There's a reason why we did that. The first reason, it just gets you out of your head, right? You just arrived. You probably were listening about AI. Now there's Barbie here. There's a dude with a Lego bow tie up. You're like, what's happening? So you got to get present. That's the first reason. But the second is to ask you this question. Which version did you judge yourself more with? Number one, where you could see, or number two, where you couldn't? How many for number one? Raise your hand if you had number one. Oh, wow, a lot of number ones. Okay, how many for two? Okay, I see you. Okay, I see you. All right, so I'm confused. I do this everywhere, wherever I'm going, wherever I'm traveling, and I always ask this, and you had more time. You could see. So why'd you judge yourself more? Just throw it out. Why? Because I could see how badly it was going. Is that what you're saying? You're like, this is going to be horrible, right? Why else? You have an excuse the second time. You're like, whatever, it's going to be really bad, right? And because we're talking about play, right? With play, you actually let go of results. But when you are trying to be perfect, like I never said you had to be drawers. The person standing next to you didn't expect, but you were like, if it's not the best ever, they're going to judge me, and then I'm going to get fired, even though they don't work for me. All your inner critics just going crazy, right? I had to do a whole other talk on this, right? So what I need you to do is I need you to be a number two. I need you to let go of the results, just for the next hour or so, because we're going to be doing a lot of play exercises, and the more that you allow yourself to play, the more you give permission for others to play, and the more you'll get out of this, right? And the more it'll just be more fun. So are we cool with that? All right, so we're letting go. Perfect. Second, if you're standing, there's some seats here. Just raise your hand if you're sitting right next to a seat that's open so you can find seats. Okay. The third reason why is because of something known as attunement. So attunement is like one of the first ways you ever play as a baby. When your parent or guardian picks you up and your eyes locked when you were a baby, what happens is you feel seen and heard and appreciated and valued and loved. And this is one of the only times your brain waves actually match identically. And this is without any words, right? And then you seek that for the rest of time. You seek it in your relationships, you seek it in your friendships, you seek it at work, right? And there's a few times where you feel attunement with a community. And when the Barbie movie came out, did you not feel that? Did you not feel like you even knew what movie they were going to without even saying? You're like, I see you. Right? And then you would get in that Barbie box and take photos there. Everyone was vibing, right? And when we're talking about psychological safety, it's this whole idea of how do we create attunement on a regular basis with people? How do we build that? Even non-verbally, how do we do that? So that's what we're going to be exploring today. We're going to be talking about Barbie, psychological safety, and leadership, and play, all in an hour. How are we going to do it? I don't know. We're just going to figure it out together. All right? So let me show what we're going to be actually covering. So we're going to first define psychological safety and play, because we don't define things enough. We need to start defining, because a lot of times you're like, what are we talking about, right? Second, we're going to talk about how to build psychological safety immediately. What you can do now, right now. It's not going to be easy, but I got suggestions. Then we're going to talk about how psychological safety ties in with equity, and how you can actually make sure that results in actual action. And then I always say this, I don't want to do this talk if we're not going to actually do something. No more just talking and then then we go on our way. Like, I'd rather you try a bunch of these play experiments out that I'm going to suggest, and even if you hate them, contact me and be like, I hate you, I don't like them, they didn't work. Great, at least you tried them. This is all an experiment, right? We're all trying to figure this out. This is a brand new way in which we're working, so we have to figure out new ways of winning, and that the way we're going to do that is through play. Cool? Okay, so let's first talk about who in the world is this dude, okay? So this is me pre-pandemic, and this is me post-pandemic. As you can see, it's been tough. It's been very tough. And I use like play and positive psychology to basically, make work suck less. That's the jam, right? That's the gig. But you might also be talking about like, wait a minute, let's talk about the other thing. Like, why is a man talking about Barbie? Like you're like, yo, okay, wait, but I have experience with Barbie. So I'm going to tell you just briefly my Barbie story. So I started having Barbie when I was 4. This is the dream house that my sisters and I had. So I was 4, they were 8 and 7. Basically, the negotiation was an hour of Barbie for 30 minutes of G.I. Joe. But it became like 5 minutes of G.I. Joe, okay? But we only did one Barbie scenario. There's only one Barbie scenario. So what would happen is I would drive up in the Barbie Corvette, not owned by Ken, by the way, owned by Barbie. That's very important to know, right? And I would drive up to the house, and my sisters would be getting Barbie ready for her date, right? Because we're going to go on a date. And then 30 minutes later, they're like, we're almost ready. Then an hour later, almost. And then 2 hours, that was it. That was the whole thing. It was just me standing outside. And I think the reason why we did that is because we didn't know what a date was. So we kind of just like did that part. So I just hung out and I learned patience through Barbie. I learned the most amount of patience. If you need me in a clothing store, I could sit there for 8 hours. Like, I'm ready to go, okay? But yeah, but so I had my 2 Ken dolls, and and we would play all these different like scenarios out. But what I loved so much, so how many people saw the Barbie movie? Raise your hand if you saw it. Okay, who hasn't? Okay, oh that's fine. No shame in the game. Like, what are you doing? Why have you not looked at it? It's everywhere. It's on Southwest Airlines for free. I've seen it 3 times on Southwest. You can't dance while you're there. You're like, you're gonna knock someone's drink over. Yeah, okay, sorry. Okay, yes. So just I'm gonna talk, for the people that haven't seen the movie, I'm gonna talk way too much about Barbie. Like, way too much. Okay, for the people that have seen it, I'm not gonna talk about it enough. You're gonna be like, why don't we just pop on the movie? Like, why don't we just watch the movie? Like, what are we doing here, right? So there will be times when I have to talk about work because we are at WorkHuman. But yes, just to give you that context, okay? All right, so let me first define what I mean by play, right? So I define play as any joyful act where you forget about time, where there's no specific purpose or result. It's where you're fully immersed in the moment. And remember when we were just doing the drawing exercise, right? You wanted to be a perfectionist, potentially. Play's the opposite of perfection. So perfection is rooted in ego and shame and constantly trying to be right? Play is rooted in experimentation, a sense of wonder, right? A sense of awe. You're like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's try it out anyway, right? And perfection, that's where the burnout comes from. That's where the psychological safety is not safe, right? Where the code switching, where you have to believe you have to be somebody else when you're at work and pretend like you know what you're talking about when nobody knows what they're talking about, right? So when you're able to let go of that and allow for more play, that's where the psychological safety starts to get built. So that's what we're going to be exploring. So let me define what I mean by psychological safety. So I define it as a place where employees feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Now you've probably heard this many times. You're like, that's corny. What do you mean by that? Okay, seen. Do you see me as a human being? Not just a cog in the machine that you're just like squeezing money out of me, right? Appreciated. Are you compensating me for my work? And are you valuing me? Are you recognizing me? Not just like, not are you paying me for what I'm worth, because I don't like attaching worth to money, right? Like, we're bigger than that. But like, or do you appreciate me? Do you appreciate me for me? And then heard, which is usually the hardest, which is when I share something, do you actually take action on it? Or do you just let it fall into a black hole? never to be seen again, right? And you just feel gaslit. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. How do you make sure your staff feels seen, heard, and appreciated? So one of the first questions worth asking, because I'm going to be posing a lot of questions worth asking, and I'll list these at the end. Scan the QR code if you want to get them as well. The first question is, when have you felt seen, heard, and appreciated at work? What was that moment? Do you know that moment? Do you feel that right now? Right? And then the key flip side of that question is, when have you not felt seen, heard, and appreciated? And then what did you do? Did you start looking for jobs immediately, right? Did you quit at that point? Was it at a meeting and you got gaslit and you were like, no, not coming back to this meeting? Like, what was that moment? These are the questions you need to be talking to your staff about and helping your leaders, because you are HR, right, to ask these questions. When have you felt seen, heard, and appreciated? What are you doing to make sure your staff feels seen, heard, and appreciated? Really, really powerful if you're starting to build safety. Now, I've been traveling, and it's not good, because I've been going to Canada, I've been in the US, I've been all over the country, and for the last 3 years, I've been just talking to staff. And it's the worst. It's like, work just sucks right now for so many people. And I think even in HR, I don't even think we realize how much it sucks. If you want to know, hop on TikTok, type work sucks, and you'll have 80,000 videos that you can just watch about just people just talking about how much it sucks, right? And it really doesn't have to, especially because we're at work 2,000 to 2,500 hours a year. We're at work longer than we are with our family. Some people like that more, I get it, right? But it's just this idea of like, it doesn't have to suck so much, right? So why? And how do we actually alleviate that? So, do people remember this scene? Raise your hand if you remember this scene. Okay, so for the people that that haven't seen it, we're going to give you a little spoilers. Okay, so right at the beginning of the movie, right, they're dancing, they're having a great time, and then Barbie just has this idea, and she's like, do you ever think about dying? And then the music stops, right? And then talk about like lack of psychological safety. Everyone's like, oh, like we're partying. And then she's like, because I love to die to dance. And everyone's like, woo, right? So like at that very moment, she wasn't allowed to share what her true feelings were, right? So so what we're gonna first go into is the why work sucks, is we're gonna go into the reasons why, or what the feedback that I've been hearing as to why. So we're gonna talk about the death of work briefly before we get to the fun and the play, okay? So right now, a lot of employees feel extremely disrespected. They feel so disrespected. And the reason why I have this fob key up is because there was one organization, you probably know who it is, we shall not name them, as we're not shaming here, but this organization, there was a person that was there for 15 years, and he went into work at 5 a.m. to get a project done, like on a Monday, and his fob key didn't work. And that's how he found out he got laid off. And then 1,000 other people got laid off the same way. 15 years, right? That happened this year. From an organization that, used to claim was all about psychological safety, right? That's just one example. Then employees feel used. There was another organization that when they hit the $10 billion mark, did they give out bonuses? Did they give out, raises? No, they gave out cookies. And the cookies were stale. So everyone got a cookie. That was all they got, right? So people feel really used right now. And then I got this one partly from John Oliver. I had to do more research on it. But do you know those discount stores, those 99-cent stores, right? So because they pay so little, they're understaffed. So when you walk into those places, it looks like a hurricane hit, right? There's like boxes everywhere, you can't even walk, because they only have like 1 or 2 staff there. Because they only have 1 or 2 staff there, usually those places get robbed. So this one place got robbed with 2 staffers. The manager and the other person were put in the back by gunpoint. So they're sitting in the back. The person robs them, leaves. She calls up her district manager, and she's just like, we just got robbed. The district manager's like, are you okay? She's like, yeah. And then the second question her district manager said is, So who's covering tomorrow? I just want to get an idea of what, coverage. And so it's like, what are we doing, right? Like, what is happening? Like, I feel like this, right? I feel like Barbie when she first arrives in the real world, and you're like, what is going on? Like, what world are we in, right? And then how many of you have been asked this question, or not even asked this question, but been told this? We have to be more productive. Raise your hand if you're like, we have to be more productive. We got to be more efficient. We got to maximize our staff more. So this is what I want you to do. Turn to your neighbor and say you are productive enough. Just let him know. Just tell him. You are productive enough. You're productive enough. Why? Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Because I skipped this slide earlier. Why? Because since 1979, we are 64.7% more productive. We are so productive. Every year, better and better. What about our wages? 14.8%. So it's like, yo, the gig is up. This is why Gen Z's like, I'm not doing what you did, because they know, like, this is not cool. This is not cool, right? This is BS. Let's just be honest what it is. So like, it's crazy. So I feel like I'm at a Mojo Dojo Casa house. And for people that are like, what in the world is that? It's a frat house, basically. There's Budweiser everywhere, right? It's just spilled, right? And the craziest part is we are celebrating people at the Mojo Dojo Casa house that should not be celebrated. Who are these people, right? Like, why are we celebrating narcissism? Like please explain, right? What are we doing? How many people want to work at Twitter right now, all right? Right? How much innovation and psychological safety is happening at Twitter? I refuse to say the other name, right? Like, so what are we doing? And then how are we celebrating this? Like, why is Succession a good show? We keep deifying all these Wolf of Wall Street people, and you're like, this is not healthy, right? And you kind of understand why, because they're trying to gaslight us into believing they're really smart, but they're not. They're not, because people are leaving, right? So like, this is not working, right? So that's where we're at. We're currently in the Mojo Dojo Casa house, and we need to clean it up. All right? Are we down for that? Okay. All right. So let's talk about it. So work doesn't have to suck. It really doesn't. So one of the questions worth asking earlier, how do you make sure your staff feel seen, heard, and appreciated? Another question, really important, worth asking. What do your organization's actions say of your values? So you have Cookie, we have the Cookie incident, and then we have Spanx. Who likes Spanx, right? Spanx CEO surprises every employee with 2 first-class tickets and 10 grand when they went public. That was in addition to their other bonus. I'm not saying your company has to do that, but can we get more CEOs like this? Like, can we celebrate more of this? More community. It was interesting. A friend of mine told me, and this is, I don't always want to genderize it, but this was kind of true, where she talked about how when a lot of men gather, straight men usually, we gather around status. Like that's how we like connect. That's how we one-up each other and talk trash, right? But women, or people that identify as like non-binary potentially, more so gather around community. And this is community right here, right? Like she did it with everyone who was in the room and was like, I'm gonna thank all of you, like all together, because we all did this together, rather than it's just about me. It's not as individual, right? Like, how do we figure out ways in which to build community through our actions? So that's the question I ask for you. As you look at your actions of your organization, what values? I don't care about your mission statement. I don't care about that eagle with the leadership poster that you have up, because no one, half your staff don't even know what the core values are. If you ask them, they'd be like, integrity, I think, is one of them. Like they don't even know. But it doesn't matter, because like it's in the actions. What are your actions communicating? That's what we need to figure out. That's how you can start to build it from an organizational standpoint. So, do you remember this scene? Oh my gosh. So I love this scene, right? So for people that don't know about it, so Barbie has she was in the Barbie world, right? Now she's coming into the real world, and she believes because of the empowerment she did in the Barbie world, there's going to be so much empowerment in the real world. And then she's so disappointed. It's such a patriarchal system when she arrives, right? And she's like crying on the bench. And she sits down next to this person. This happens to be Anne Roth. She's a famous costume designer. She's never seen anyone that's older because everyone is a doll in the Barbie world, right? So it's ageless. Everyone's ageless. So you don't see any elderly dolls, right? And she sees how beautiful this person is, and she's just like, you're beautiful. And Anne just goes, I know it. And it's such a good scene. And it does not move the storyline forward at all. So what happened is the producers and Mattel wanted this scene removed. They were like, we don't know why we have it. You know, it's someone that, you know, is not the regular beautiful. And Greta was like, we don't do the movie if I don't do the scene. There's no point to do the movie if we don't have this scene in here. Because I want to show other types of beauty. I want to show the person that everyone considers the most beautiful finding beauty in another way. And even though this person only has one line, right? You know, it's the whole idea of like true measure of your work environment can be found by how you treat your most vulnerable. Most vulnerable members, when I'm talking, not weak, because she's not weak, she actually represents something so powerful, but how are we looking out for her? What are you doing that with your staff? Who are the quiet ones that could make a massive impact on your organization? And how are you looking out for them? Do you have their back? Or are you only listening to the person that is taking up all the space in the room? What are we doing, right? So immediately, another way you can build psychological safety, okay? Now, we're the only department. We're the only department. By the way, Issa Rae, are we excited about Issa Rae? Oh my goodness! President Barbie. So, HR is the only department with human in the title. Yet we are constantly asked to do inhumane things, right? We are constantly asked to sign off on that, like we're gonna lay everyone off, you know, via email, you know. We constantly have to sign off on horrible ideas. Like we have to protect people from the mayhem of like really bad ideas from the marketing department. You know, like you're constantly having to do that, and you rarely have the ability to be human. And part of the reason why huge reason why we joined this is because we love people, or we love individuals. You may not love people as in general, but you know, we love people. We love people. So how are we making sure that we're making decisions from that humane standpoint? And you have to figure out, and this is for you, everyone's different, but you got to figure out which boundaries you're willing to set. Which ones you're going to be like, no, I refuse to do that, to do that. And say that to some of your CEOs or some of your C-suite executives that are like, this is not going to be that big of a deal, but we're going to lay off half the staff, but we want to motivate the other half. You know, like, you have to push back on that. And you have to decide whether you're ready to do that, you know, because everyone is in a different position. But we have to start setting boundaries. Like, I agree with Brene. This is our time. Like this, there's this moment in time where we're either going to go back to the old patriarchal ways, or we're going to create a brand new human-centered leadership model. That's the choice that's happening. And as you notice, a lot of the old school leaders, the reason they're rushing to AI is because they don't like people. And they're hoping they can just run into AI and be like, that will solve everything, and it won't. And you know it won't, right? So this is why this moment in time is vital for you. Cool? All right. So, John Amici used to play for the Orlando Magic, would always talk about work culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated. You want to change your whole organization? Just be like, what's the worst behavior hanging out here? Again, I don't care about the mission or core values. What is the worst behavior? Is there a Chad in the room? Raise your hand if you're a Chad. If you have a Chad. No Chads, okay. Why is Chad running amok? Why are you allowing Chad to act that way. That is your culture. It's not what's written on the boards. It's what Chad is doing. So if Chad is like coming in late, leaving early, and taking up room at all these places, right? Talking the whole meeting, not letting anyone else talk, that's your culture. As soon as you remove that, we did that at one of my organizations. As soon as we removed our first Chad, all the other Chads started leaving. Or they knew the time was up. Like, oh, I can't get away with stuff as much, right? So this, huge. If you're going to remember one, this is the one, right? So I'm going to ask you a question that you may not like. Who are the managers that should not be leading people at your organization? You know. Look, you're already giggling. You know. You've known for 5 years. Why are they still there? What are you doing? How can we address this? Like, what is happening? We all know. But why are we not doing anything about it, right? This alone causes so much turnover. 1 in 3 people are quitting because of this. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel a little shame because of this, you're not alone. Everyone is doing this. Everybody. Nearly all bosses are accidental with no formal training. And research shows it's leading 1 in 3 people to quit. What's nearly all bosses? 82%. 82% of managers right now are not trained. And when you ask them, so what do you hate most? And they're like, training. So they know they're bad, right? So you have to really decide at this point, are they managers that just gotta go? Are there managers that are willing to get trained? Are there managers that really like people? Or are these just individual contributors and we can figure out another role for them? But we gotta make a move on this, because as long as you have someone that's really bad, work culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated, right? We're setting the tone. We're saying this is the best manager we have, which is not true, and then everyone knows. So that, again, huge way in which you can make an impact. So, all right, it's time to play a little bit. So we're talking about feeling seen, right? So we're gonna be doing feeling seen, feeling appreciated, and feeling heard. So feeling seen, again, do you see me as a human being? Do you know my story? Do you understand who I am? So the flip side of work culture is the worst behavior tolerated, right, is what is the best behavior not being recognized? Now, in a gratitude workshop we actually message people that make our life easier. This is what we do, right? What's the best behavior not being recognized? So we're gonna do that right now. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down what you are most proud of at work. What do you do best at work? So I want you to all write down, what do you do best at work? And this is great for performance evaluation, so you might want to keep this list when you're asking for that raise. So write down, what do you do best at work? Okay, quick question. Why are we not doing more of that? Why can't we do that at work? Why is that? How long does that take? 30 seconds, a minute, right? Someone's having a bad day, you just walk up to them and be like, what proud work are you proud of right now? Like, we need to pause and take some time. If we're challenging patriarchal leadership, right, we need to slow down just a little bit. They're constantly like, we gotta go. So many things we gotta do, right? But the idea of connecting with people and being like, what is the thing that you're really proud of? Let's talk about it for like a minute or briefly. Right? That's something so simple. So that's the first level. Let's go a little bit deeper, right? So now I'm going to ask you this question. This is more reflective. And there's 2 ways in which to address this question. So let me first throw it up there. I want you to think about how many people's lives have you impacted in a positive way in the last year? And there's 2 ways in which you can answer this. Well, there's many ways, but there's at least 2. One is breadth, like how many people, like numerically, how many people did I recruit? How many people did I mentor? How many people did I hire, right? That's one. The other way is names. Who are the names of people that you've impacted? So either way or both, write down either the number or the names or both. And if you need a friend to like do calculations with, you're like, wait, 365 days and So number or names? And when we're thinking about names, I wrote directly or indirectly. So say, for example, you hired someone and they're the first person to graduate from college. Not only are you now impacting their life, but their entire family. Now everyone thinks they might have an opportunity because you made that choice. That is a ripple effect that hits generations, right? Are we giving ourselves credit for that? Okay? All right, so that's second level. Now let's go even deeper. So then I want you to think of your most memorable and meaningful moment from last year where you impacted someone in a massively positive way. Now, if you're like, oh, that's really hard, you can even think a few years back. Well, what is that moment that rooted you to this work, to why you do this rather than HR or accounting or sales? Why this? What was that moment? And if you're like, oh, it's not just one moment, then it could be a multitude of moments with a certain theme. But what is that? Identify that for yourself and go ahead and write that down. So there's a reason why we do this, right? This is not just for like corny and like it's woo-woo, but it actually builds psychological safety, right? And it also connects you more to that organization. I used to do campaign work for Obama, and before we would knock on doors or make any phone calls, we would share stories. So I would find out about my friend Dana's story and how she's, dealing with cancer, right? So that when I knock on doors, I'm not just doing it for me, I'm also knocking on doors for her. And you start to connect your values based off of your stories. And I remember doing this talk at the city of Rancho Cucamonga, California, which, by the way, is such a fun name to say, Rancho Cucamonga. It sounds like a drink that you order. Like, let me get a Rancho Cucamonga. And there's like flames coming out of it, right? So we're doing it for the city. So police, firefighters, everybody's there, right? And we're doing this exercise. And there's this one guy that's like, I got nothing. And I was like, well, what do you do? And he goes, dude, I just make maps. I'm a GIS guy. I just draw maps. That's all I do. And I go, okay, well, then in the last year or 2 years, was there anything unique that happened during this time? And he mentioned, well, there was this one time a bunch of firefighters came to thank me. And I was like, well, why? And he's like, well, one of their fellow firefighters had died of cancer after 20 years on the job where he was inhaling smoke while saving people's lives, while putting out house fires, all this stuff. And then he finally succumbed to cancer. And they needed someone to draw the funeral route through the city, so I did it. And because I did it in such a way that it covered a majority of the city, the community came out. And then all of a sudden, all these firefighters did not know all these people that appreciated them. And then the fallen firefighters' family got to see tens of thousands of people that came out just to thank this person. The dude just makes maps. Right? You're just HR. You're not. You're not just HR. You're constantly changing lives, more so than any other department. Any other department. And we are not giving ourselves enough credit. Do you feel that? Right? Think about how HR even started. It was an admin job, and then they just dumped whatever they didn't want to do into HR. Like, you want to fire someone? I don't want to fire him. Yeah, HR. Lawsuits, HR. Marketing, get to go to dinners? Not HR. No, they don't get to do that. That's fun. So, let me ask you a question. Is HR a revenue generating department?
Absolutely.
Is HR a profit saving department?
Yes.
How many lawsuits have you saved your company from? How many leaders have you stopped from that horrible idea they were going to share with everybody? Right? How much CYA do we do, and then we can't share it, even though it would be a great book. We could all write amazing books about what we are dealing with, right? We are constantly saving money. We are constantly the profit-saving department. So we need to start vouching for us and show up that way, and maybe even make the calculations when they're like, yeah, it's HR, you're not revenue generating. Well, we're profit saving. We're saving your ass on a regular basis, right? And that is how we can argue more, and that's how we can get more power to affect leadership. Because right now, who's wasting all the money? Marketing, sales. You see those expense reports trying to sign off for like going to Disney, and you're like, what is that? That is not approved, okay? Like the amount of money just being siphoned off by all the departments, and they're like, but we make the money. Yeah, and then you lose all of it too. And then I have to protect Chad, who happens to be in marketing, because he's an a-hole, right? So we have to be looking out for each other, right? We have to be advocating for each other. We have to be advocating for HR. When Brene goes, this is our time, right? We cannot be showing up small because we literally were the glue that kept people together during the pandemic. Do you remember that? You saved your company during the pandemic, whether you give yourself credit or not. Because they weren't rushing to marketing to be like, what should we do with masks, right? They came to you and you're like, I don't know. I got to call a professor of epidemiology to figure this out because no one else has figured it out. So we are constantly doing this. So take in that, right? Take in that power because you are that amazing. And I'm not just doing that just to gloat. I actually love HR, okay? So give yourself a round of applause. All right. So, now, the other reason why we talk about stories is because of what actually happens chemically. So when you share a story, you get a shot of dopamine. Not that fake dopamine when you're doom scrolling, real dopamine. It's the same feeling you get when you're celebrating little wins or eating really good food. You also get a certain level of oxytocin. It's the love hormone. When you get compliments, you get that same feeling when you're like holding a baby, right? Or playing with a pet. The reason why we did it all quietly is because we were focused on conjuring up a certain level of serotonin. You get this, it's like a mood stabilizer. You get this when you're in flow. And then finally, some people were laughing during their stories because there were some really awesome, hilarious stories. You get endorphins. Endorphins are as a painkiller. When you get someone to laugh, you take pain away. Another way in which you take pain away is to cancel meetings. Okay? Cancel meeting. Okay, 4 p.m. Friday meeting. When it gets canceled, how do you feel? Right? Too many meetings. Too many. And why? They don't have to be 60 minutes. Can they be 22 minutes? Like just make up a number, but don't make it 60 anymore, right? Another way to create psychological safety, if you want time, cancel those meetings, okay? All right, I have a whole conference thing about that. Okay, all right. So the other way in which you make people feel seen is you allow for play. So Stephen Johnson would say, you'll find the future where people are having the most fun. So in your industry, what is the organization having the most fun? That is the one that recruits the most. That's the one that people want to be a part of. During the pandemic, TikTok was the place to be. Everyone used to rush over to TikTok. Back in 1999, Amazon was the place to be because they were solving some of the most interesting problems in the world. Not anymore, right? So how are you making sure that you are creating an environment for people to play on their own time? And the way in which I talk about it, because I hate forced fun, right? If you put a Chad in a room with Samantha at the escape room, they're going to hate each other when they go in the room, and they're going to hate each other when they leave, right? It's not happening. Bowling's not going to bring them together. Another pizza party's not going to bring them together. Like, let's stop doing that. But when I say play, I'm talking specifically about staff zone of genius, their flow work. What is the work where they forget about time? What is the work you do that you do this work even if you weren't getting paid to do this work? What is your staff's zone of genius, right? You help them do that, they feel so seen, they feel so recognized. Okay? Figure this out. If we had more time, we would do a whole breakout just to figure this out. But this is powerful. All right. So we've talked about feeling seen. Now we got to get to appreciated. Let's talk about getting a feeling appreciated. So what we're going to do here is we are going to talk about leadership archetypes. And it's a play experiment where you have to pick one of the four. Now you're going to be like, I'm complex, I'm all four. Yes, you are. And for this one, just pick four. Okay? We're going to break down characters by this. So we're going to identify certain characters of Barbie this way. So I'm going to quickly go through them, and then you pick them. Which one is yours? You got it? All right. So Issa Rae, what are we talking about, right? President Barbie, the boss archetype. Logical reasoning, delegates authority. She's a GSDer, right? She gets stuff done. That's the boss. We have the coordinator archetype. That person is usually like the assistant to the boss. They love organizing. They're dependable. They're practical. You know exactly how they will show up, right? Type A sometimes, okay? Then you have, this is my Vam, you have Weird Barbie, right? You have Weird Barbie. Weird Barbie is an innovator. She's an entrepreneur. She's energizing. She has so many ideas. Horrible at details, but so many ideas, right? And then finally, and Barbie represents all of them, but I chose her for this one, but we have Barbie, which is, she's the nurturer. So she specializes in connection, harmony. She's constantly trying to get buy-in, right? She's an empath. So again, we have the nurturer, so the empath, the coordinator who's organized, the innovator who has many ideas, and the boss archetype who is a GSD or get stuff done person. So I want you to go ahead and pick one, okay? And then we got to do this fast because we don't have as much time. But what I want you to do is then I want you in your group of 4 to share with each other, and we're only going to have a little bit, so like less than a minute, and probably like 30 seconds. I want you to share with each other why you chose that specific archetype. So go ahead and break up back into your group of 4 that you had before and share. Why do you break up in that certain archetype? Before I ask this last one, and I know, I want to make sure we have enough time for this. So usually what we would do, logistically we can't do this, but usually I would actually have you move to these parts of the room just to identify, right? Just so you could see. So just so we know, give it up for the nurturers. Where are the nurturers, right? Okay, give it up for the nurturers. All right, where are the coordinators? Let's see the coordinators. All right, give it up for them. All right, where are the innovators? Give it up for the innovators, okay. And then where are my bosses? Give it up for the bosses. So if you could imagine, we're in different corners, right? The diagonals is your opposite. So bosses and nurturers, complete opposite. Bosses, got to get stuff done. Got to get stuff done. We are constantly, right? Nurturers, got to get buy-in. So let's just talk briefly about empathy. Bosses. In order to have more empathy for nurturers, right? Sometimes they just can't get stuff done because they have to get buy-in first. They actually have to sell your idea to people. And they have to build relationships in order to sell your idea. So you got to give them some time to do that. Okay, nurturers, where are you? All right, we got to hurry up. We got to make some decisions. So what's going on? 3 months, 4 months for buy-in? How much buy-in do we need? Like, it's going to take forever, okay? All right, innovators. We're my innovators. That's my family right there, right? So many ideas. We come up with them 4 minutes ago. We run up to you coordinators, we're like, we got this great idea. And the coordinators are like, oh, not another. So coordinators, this is the empathy that you could give us. When we share our idea with you, do not ask us questions just yet. We have not figured it out. We just want you to celebrate the fact that we have an idea. It's not a good idea yet, but it may be one. Okay, all right. Innovators. The empathy that you need to have for coordinators is your idea might be bad. And also, you really haven't thought about it yet, and they're going to ask you questions, and that's not a bad thing for them to ask you questions because they got to take that half-baked idea and come up with a guideline for it with liability and all that. So we have to have that level of empathy. So the last one is, and actually I'm just going to, let me just get to this. This is where we want to identify how do we build empathy for each other. It's like we need all 4, right? All 4 are really valuable. And I'm going to skip to this part because I feel like this is a really crucial part because I'm running out of time. Oh gosh, I love this moment. I love this moment. We're going to come back to that. Let me come back to that. So I want to get to this. So when we're talking about building safety, right? And we're talking about identifying different types of archetypes. We're also talking about different ways in which we show up as leaders, right? So you have to ask yourself, what traits does your team have and what traits does your team not have? So profitability, cognitive intelligence, all these might be ones that you currently have for your team, but the key question you have to ask yourself is what traits are currently missing? What are the main ones that are missing? And then once you do that, right, then you're able to identify, you do the big reveal and you recognize we need healthy masculine and healthy feminine traits. And right now, we have skewed so far to one side. This is why psychological safety is running amok right now. Because right now we've skewed to celebrate one side so much that we've missed out on the balance. And especially when it comes to healthy feminine leadership. Play is healthy feminine. It's collaborative, it's connection-oriented, it's intuitive. It doesn't exist enough in the workplace. We need that. We need that, okay? Now, let me go back to the one that people are like, we need to talk about that. American Fiera. Let's do that for a moment, all right? So, there was this moment, right? When Brene was talking, I know she doesn't like getting quoted, but like the opposite of belonging is fitting in, right? When you have to feel like you have to code switch, all this stuff. Well, when American Ferrera, when she was sharing that story, right, where I did not know. I'm a cisgendered, straight male guy. Like, I did not know that you had to deal with that level of perfection. That you had to be perfect, and then when you were perfect, then you were criticized for being perfect. Like, this is just, that's painful. That's so hard, right? That's not cool. And us men have to apologize for that, right? Because whether we contributed directly to it or not, it's happened. So I'm sorry about that. Like, that's not right. And we have to change that. It's part of the reason why I'm doing this talk, right? So how do we make sure that you don't have to fit in anymore, that you can just simply show up and belong? And this is where I get into this. So the question that I would ask you is specifically around equity. Is, say, for example, we're talking about we need more women in leadership positions, right? And how are we going to do that? A question you have to ask your team is, where do you stand on equity when it comes to this specifically? So in equity, dudes are like, who cares? We don't need women leaders, right? Are you there? Or then denying or ignoring, like, yeah, we don't have women, but, is that big a deal, right? Then there's recognition, no action. That's a good point. We should hire more women leaders. And then they don't do anything, right? And then there's action. What are you talking about? We hired Judy like 2 years ago, right? And then we finally are starting to educate ourselves. Okay, how am I building relationships with universities so I can find specific leadership, right? How am I actually working with alumni organizations and women empowerment organizations so we can find it? How are we creating ERGs, women ERGs, so that we can foster it from the inside, right? One thing that Elon did as soon as he arrived at Twitter, he dismantled all the ERGs. Why? Because he was scared of that power, right? So we have to challenge that. And then supporting and encouraging. How are we celebrating each other and finding amazing leaders that we can prop up? And then also pointing out when we're like, this is becoming too much of a dudes bro club. We need to stop that. Okay? So, I'm wrapping up here. So I'm going to the last slide. I know, there's so much stuff. There's so much other stuff I would love to cover. This is Barbie Land. We should just do it forever. Tiffany, can we have more time? Okay, don't get me in trouble. You're gonna get in trouble. Okay. Right now, it is Mojo Dojo Casa House, guys. I'm sorry saying guys. The Mojo Dojo Casa House, everyone. This is your opportunity. They're distracted. They're making money. They're chasing AI. They don't know what's happening. Everything's AI. Oh, AI, all the time. You're like, calm down, dude. It's not your boyfriend. Or maybe it is. I don't know. No judgment. What? So, this is what we got to do. Who are your allies? Let's figure out our allies. Look for the Allens. The Allens exist. Heck, some Kens might even be out there as well, right? Because patriarchal leadership doesn't benefit any of us. It's not. It only benefits like five dudes, right? That's it. So where are your allies? And then start answering these questions. And these are the ones that we covered at the beginning. So there's a slide to take a picture of. It's this one, right? This one right here. This is how you're building psychological safety. When have you felt seen, appreciated, and heard? What do your organization's actions say about your values? Who are the managers that should not be leading? Can we get rid of them? What is the best behavior not being recognized? What is your staff's zone of genius, the work they forget about time? What is your staff's leadership archetypes? We didn't get into language of appreciation, but we'll get into next time. Where does your team stand on equity, the thing we just did? And then lastly, what are the leadership traits that are currently missing? Do we have enough healthy feminine leadership traits right now? How do we foster that? In both men, women, or if you identify as non-binary, all of that. We need all of this. But we have to do it in community. People will want to break us up and make it competitive. Don't fall for that. That's part of dismantling patriarchy. Slow down and check in with one another. Because what happens when we do this, we got this, we're good, is you are right now at this crossroads. This is it. This is the moment where we go back to patriarchal old ways, built off of rugged individualism, ego, shame, all this stuff, or we finally start building human-centered leaders, shared humanity, compassion, empathy, all of those things. And if you do that, we finally make sure that work doesn't suck anymore. And we finally become or start to work human. You see what I did there? Yeah! That is my time. Those are my slides. You want to ask the slides, all the stuff, scan that QR code. Let's stay in touch, everyone. Let's do this. High five each other as you're walking out. Oh, last thing. I'm so sorry. From a psychological safety standpoint, Maureen told me this. Thank you, Maureen, for sharing this. When we were sharing our stories earlier, the personal stories, some people were filming and they might have caught it by accident if you could not share those. Because again, safe space, that would be really amazing. Also, clipboards, I know you love them. You look more professional with them. If you could just leave them on the seat because we're going to use them tomorrow, okay? Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you. Let's stay connected. Scan my QR code. Let's go.